Hello everyone, Happy New Year. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to Rainy Day Crochet. I hope that you're just as excited as I am to jump into a new year, especially considering what 2020 was. So I'm excited for 2021, and today I'm talking about my 2021 temperature blanket. Now, I've never done a temperature blanket before, so I just wanted to walk through my process of how I planned mine and the reason I made certain choices and the yarn and everything about it. Now, this is by no means a guide because, like I mentioned, this is my first ever temperature blanket, so if it seems like something is maybe a bit off, that's probably why. But this is just my plan for now, and if I need to change things, I will do so and keep my project updated on Ravelry, which will be in the description if you want to see my plan all laid out there. I will be updating that as I make changes because I suspect that I will be making changes along the way. If you don't know what a temperature blanket is, it's a blanket, obviously, where you take the temperature every day, every 2 days, every 3 days, every week, however you want. It's a very flexible project. And you stitch a row in whatever color you designated for that temperature range. I live in Western Washington, so we don't typically get snow and we don't typically get super hot weather either. In the summers, it doesn't get any warmer usually than 90 degrees, if that. That's typically a very hot day for us. And a super cold day is going to be somewhere in the low 30s and high 20s. So I have a nice range there. I don't have to, it's not like other places where I have to plan for negative degree weather and all the way to over 100 degree weather. I'm very lucky that the weather where I live is so nice. The yarn I'm using for my temperature blanket is Caron Simply Soft, and the reason I chose that yarn is because I wanted yarn that was readily available that I knew would be around in a year. So that's why I chose that yarn. So I have 6 categories and I'll walk you through them. I have my little journal, which I'll show close up, but the first category that I have for going from hot to cold weather, the first category is 75 degrees and above. And the reason I chose that is because that seemed to be the average temperature for the last, I think I was looking at 5 years for where I live, and I'll include the resource that I use to find the average temperature for my location so that you can use it for your location as well if you're planning on doing a temperature blanket yourself. So the first category is above or equal to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And the color I'm using for that is Persimmon. So this is the color, and I really like this color. I think that I will probably use this color for future projects just because it's such a nice coral kind of color. So I really like that. That's the first category. The second category is 65 to 74 degrees Fahrenheit, and for that one I'm using Light Country Peach, which is what this is. So I think it's a really nice kind of soft pink with some orangish hues almost in there. So that's nice. Orange, maybe red, more light. But yes, I really like this one. It's a really nice peach color. The next category is 55 to 64 degrees Fahrenheit, and for that one I'm using Dark Country Blue, which I actually unraveled a little bit just to test out sizing and stuff like that for hooks and stitches and stuff. So Dark Country Blue, which I really like. It's this nice deep blue, and this one again I probably will order for future projects as well. And then the next category is 45 to 54 degrees, which is honestly probably the range that I will have the most color in my blanket for. That's usually where we sit for a majority of late fall, winter, and early spring. And for that one, I wanted a color that I really liked because otherwise I'm just gonna get tired of seeing this color. So I chose, this is soft blue, and I love this color. I really like blues and grays and yellows obviously, but this one is just such a nice color. I don't know if you can see it on camera as well, but it's just so beautiful. So I'm excited to see a lot of this in my blanket. The next category is 35 to 44 degrees Fahrenheit, and for that one I just wanted something a little more neutral, so I actually just chose off-white for that one. I didn't want something as stark as just white, so I'm glad that they had an off-white color for me to use. And then the last category is 34 degrees or below, and I'm using sunshine for that one, which I thought was kind of ironic because if it's 34 degrees or below, there's no sunshine, so I decided, you know what, let's make that category bright and happy. So I chose a nice yellow colored sunshine. I've completed one blanket and I'm working on 2 blankets currently, and sizing is just one of those things that it just confuses me a lot. So I took some time, I did some math, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what the sizing for my temperature blanket is going to look like. So I am doing an average temperature for 2 days for each row. So instead of doing 365 rows, I'm going to do 183. So I have that just because I know myself, I know I'm not going to be able to keep up with doing it every single day. This way, if I need to catch up, it's a little bit less daunting of a task. So 365 divided by 2 is 182.5. Obviously, I can't have half a row for a blanket, so I'm rounding that up to 183 rows. And then in terms of width, I am going to do 200 stitches, and I wanted a sense of how big this blanket was going to be. So what I did was, with my unraveled, that's why it looks like this, I did a gauge of 13 stitches, and then just a few rows. I just wanted the measurement for one row, how tall one row is, and then how wide one stitch is. And instead of trying to measure just one stitch, I actually did 13 stitches and then took the measurement of that and then divided to get the approximate size of each stitch. Now the stitch that I'm using for my blanket is a moss stitch. If you don't know what a moss stitch is, it's a single crochet, chain 1, and then you skip this one stitch, and then you single crochet into the next one, chain 1, and repeat. And it works up pretty quickly, which is why I chose it for this blanket. Since this is a year-long project, I don't want to commit to doing stitches that are going to take me a long time to complete. I want it to be something that I still enjoy after 32 weeks, right? I'm using a moss stitch. I'm using a 5.5mm hook for now. That might change depending on how the first few rows look. I might end up changing that. But using a 5.5mm hook, 13 stitches measured about 4 inches. And when you divide 4 inches by 13 to get the size of one stitch, it was about 0.308 inches for me. Now I took that number and I multiplied by the number of stitches that I was going to work across the blanket. So 200, so 0.308 inches times 200 stitches means that my blanket is going to be approximately 61.5 inches wide. Now I did a similar thing for the length of the blanket, so the number of rows multiplied times the height of one row. So the height of one row was half an inch, 0.5 inches. I multiplied that times 183 rows, and that came out to approximately 91.5 inches. So my blanket will be approximately 61.5 inches wide by 91.5 inches long. Like I said, this is an approximation. Many things might change along the way, so that's just my plan for now. That's how I measured my blanket. So if you're looking for a way to kind of figure out how big you want your blanket to be, that is one way to do it. Just use a small gauge, do some math, and then multiply times the numbers that you want to use. This is my first one. I'm super excited to make it, and this is just my plan for now. So I'll include all of the details about my blanket down in the description below, and then feel free to check out my Ravelry as well. I also have an Instagram if you're interested in any of the other projects and the other blanket that I mentioned, if you're interested in seeing that. I'll try to find some other resources for temperature blankets from people who are experienced at this. I hope that you had a good New Year's and celebration, and I hope that 2021 treats us all a lot better than 2020. I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!